Your 20s is a weird time in your life. On one hand, you're at an age where you're fully an adult. All the things you weren't able to do before because of your age are now free game. Well, that is if you were somehow a saint and didn't do any of these things before you turned 21. You can legally adopt a child, rent a car, book a hotel, gamble, drink, buy the ganja, for medical purposes of course. All the limitations on you have been released, and you can now experience being an adult to the fullest. But that's only one side of the coin. On the other hand, you now have to deal with these dreadful things called responsibilities. Scary, I know. I should have given an anxiety warning. Career, finances, bills, how to behave like a healthy adult and become a functioning member of society. You're at an age where you're still early in the game to be accomplished or have things figured out, and therefore people would give you the benefit of the doubt. But at the same time, there are others your age that are already accomplished or have their life sorted out. So that standard is within the realm of expectations, and those expectations weigh on you and become heavier the older you get. I'm already 20x years old, and I still haven't gotten it together yet. What is wrong with me? But then again, I'm only 20x years old. I still have my whole life ahead of me to figure things out. I should just enjoy my youth. But if I enjoy the now with no regard for my future, what will become of me? You're in a sort of limbo where you can have fun and do stupid things, since being young minimizes consequences. But at the same time, you can also capitalize on being early in the game to invest in your future and build up the asset that is you. Some opt to take the latter route, where they sacrifice fun and take on hardships now in hopes for a better tomorrow, while others, knowing that one way or another, they'll eventually have to enter the boring adult working world, party and have fun while they still physically can. With no clear right or wrong answer, you're tasked with figuring out the balance that works with your life. But more often than not, you find yourself asking, what the hell am I doing? Your 20s consist of substantial changes where you're constantly going through different phases in life at different rates than others. When you turn 21, you might go through your party phase where you're constantly going out clubbing and partying with your friends until 3 a.m. But maybe one Sunday afternoon a couple months later, as you wake up at 2 p.m. with a pounding headache from a nasty hangover and no money in your bank account, you ask yourself, what am I doing with my life? To which you then decide that you're sick of this lifestyle and want to do other things with your time. But just because you're in a new phase in life doesn't mean your friends will be too. They might have not experienced that same existential crisis you did, and therefore still want to go out partying and clubbing. Maybe you try to bring them with you into your new phase, but to no avail because that's something they have to choose for themselves. Sometimes, being in different phases of life is enough for people to drift apart. Maybe conversations don't click anymore because all your friends talk about is partying and drama, while all you talk about is existential purpose seeking and career building. And as a result, you guys go your separate ways. People will constantly come and go in your life. Your friend groups might get smaller. You might get lonelier. And it's in the moments of solitude where you may discover things about yourself that you want to be better at, such as behaviors that stem from traumatic childhood experiences. So now, you have to take steps to heal yourself from the trauma so that you can become a better version of yourself. As you do your internal work, there will be days where you feel like you've taken 5 steps forward, and then days where it feels like you've taken 30 steps back. And so, navigating through your 20s is like being on a roller coaster of ups and downs of varying lengths. At one point, you're 10 shots in, dancing to Usher at the club. Next thing you know, you're lying in bed staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. having an existential crisis. At one point, you have tons of friends you can go to hang out with, and all of a sudden, there isn't even one person you can go to when you need them the most. One day, you might feel accomplished, like you're really making progress towards a brighter future. And then, out of nowhere, a life experience puts you in your place. And then you find yourself asking, will life ever give me a break? As you go through your 20s, the common theme seems to be confusion and instability. It's like you're wandering through an endless desert with nothing but sand as far as the eye can see. Within this boundless desert is a special something only you can find if you choose to take the journey. And that special something is known as your place in the world. But because it's a desert, the journey is treacherous and full of suffering. Your feet ache, the heat is relentless, and the sun is scorching your skin. Throughout your journey, you may find oasis spots where you can rest and recover, but just when you finally find your footing and feel like things are going to be okay, the sun intensifies and dries out the oasis. So then you're back to wandering aimlessly through the desert. You'll constantly feel lost, and moments of respite seem short-lived. Way too many times will you find yourself wondering what you're doing, where you're going, and what the point of all this even is. And the biggest question of them all, why? Why are you always suffering? Why are you always encountering problems? Why is it that when one problem is solved, another comes to take its place? Why does it seem like you're not equipped to handle the hardships being thrown at you? Is it a you problem? Is it the way you think? Is it all in your head? Just why? Here's the objective truth. You were born into the world with a set of circumstances completely unique to you and you alone. Your DNA composition that affects the way you think, behave, perceive, look, to which affect the way people treat you, your upbringing, the location you grew up in, and the cultural and societal effects they have on you and the people around you, the people you've interacted with, and the things you've experienced. All these factors exclusive to you shape and mold you into the person you were in the past, the person you are today, and the person you will be in the future. The things we consider hardships, struggles, and suffering are simply a byproduct of all these factors interacting with each other, all over the world, all at the same time. You take the brunt of this byproduct in your 20s because you're still in the early stages of being your own person in this world. When you're a child and under your parents' roof, you don't experience these problems very frequently because your parents looked after you and were your cover. But as an independent adult that no longer needs the cover of your parents, you are now vulnerable to experiencing the hardships produced by reality. The suffering was always there. You are just now within its crossfire since you don't have your parents to hide behind as cover. All these things are thrown at you, and because they're new to you, of course you don't know how to deal with them. And because of your unique composition, there is no one-size-fits-all formula for how to address them. And as such, you're left flailing around trying to figure out what to do. And that is what produces your suffering. Sounds bleak and meaningless, right? An unsatisfactory answer. You're suffering because that's just the way the world works? It's precisely because it's an inherently meaningless reality that people seek their own meaning and purpose, because having a purpose makes it easier to cope with reality and makes life worth living. And for me, my meaning is story. Here's the thing. You don't have to solve your problems. You don't have to find meaningful relationships with others or find your life purpose. You don't have to become a better person. But doing so makes for a damn good story. And I'd rather have mine be one that inspires and brings light into this dark and meaningless world than feed into the negativity and emptiness that's already run rampant. It's within the suffering, confusion, and existential crises that you derive your fundamental meaning and take steps towards finding your place in the world. And because your 20s are full of it, it's the perfect opportunity to transform yourself and create the most kick-ass story. The dilemma that is your 20s isn't finding the right path on the journey that is your life. It's consistently making the decision to even take on the journey, even when life brings you down and presents you with other options. Do you use hardships and suffering to grow and extract meaning, or do you succumb to the weight and numb yourself through distractions? The choice is yours. Alright, that got pretty existential and philosophical. And the reason for that is because that's pretty much what I've been going through recently. The nights where I'm lying awake at 3 a.m. staring at my ceiling fan, questioning what I'm even doing in my life, have become pretty frequent. And it really made me reflect on what even is my 20s, and quite frankly, what even is my life. I had some answers before, and those answers have helped me get to where I am now. But as of late, they haven't been strong enough to give me clarity. And that's completely normal. Sometimes you may already have your answers or meaning or purpose, but life happens and leads you astray, and it's up to you to choose whether to find your way back or continue to stray further and further away. This is what I mean by consistently making the decision to take on the journey. Making a decision isn't a one-time thing. It's a constant battle of choosing to make that choice and the action that follows with it. You have to step up to the plate time and time again, even when it's raining or snowing, even when you're injured and tired, and especially when you're beginning to question whether it's worth stepping up to the plate or not. The answers that worked for us in the past won't necessarily continue to work for us in the future, and that simply means you need to build upon the answers you've discovered or seek out a new answer altogether. I wanted to share this perspective with y'all, while also reminding myself, this is all part of the story. Alright, that's all for now. Take care guys, see you next time.